guys! This project here was the longest that I've ever done, for sure. It took me about a month to complete this video, and then there was the editing, which took again quite a time. This video is going to be about the pyramid mold that I was talking about in my last video, and which was also sent to me from Let's Resin. I wanted to try the pyramid mold for quite a while now, and I didn't just have the mold, so I was super happy that they agreed to sending it to me and that I can give it a try after all. The cool thing is, when you're working with resin, you almost always have some leftovers. So some spare parts of resin that you just cannot fit anymore onto your project, which would be left aside, going to harden, and then it's basically wasted. So I thought this pyramid is a cool way to give this rest amount of resin a meaning. Because you can just pour it into this mold, let it cure and layer it up as much as you like and with all the rest amounts of resin that you have available. If you have miscalculated and have too much of the resin left, then you have a thicker layer. If it's just some tiny bits, you have a thinner layer. But after all, it looks really cool when all these layers are layered up and cured over each other. And then this moment when you can finally peel the mold off and see what has come out of it is so refreshing. You will see, I think, 2 or 3 times in this video. Of course, as you can imagine, the first smaller pyramid that I'm pouring here is kind of faked. So I didn't use the leftovers, I just really mixed resin just for the course of making this video and this smaller pyramid. So this one, of course, went pretty quickly. For the other pyramids that I'm doing after this, I used spare resin, so this really took a long time to collect and to have this project completed. Therefore, I also did not film the pouring into the mold scenes because, you get the point. Some housekeeping notes beforehand. If you're going to try this yourself and you want to make a pyramid quickly, so you actually mix your resin just for the course of making the pyramid, make sure to not use too much of the resin itself. As you all know, resin is an exothermal reaction when it's curing, so it gets warm, and the larger the amount of the resin that is in there, the quicker the reaction goes and the hotter everything is going to get. You actually want to avoid this. Because if it's getting too hot, you can on the one hand damage your resin, and on the other hand you can damage your mold. Because if it's getting too hot in there, the mold is going to be fused with the resin itself and you cannot remove it in the end. Therefore, also be very careful when you're going in there with your torch to probably pop any of the air bubbles. If you're making the mold too hot or you cross it with your flame, you are in a good chance that everything is going to be fused together in the end and you cannot really remove it anymore. I have that happen in the second pyramid on one spot of the mold, and once I wanted to remove it, it was really fused together, so I couldn't really get it out there. I had to use a cutter knife and scratch it off. But really this did damage the mold and I had to use the second mold for my third pyramid to come. If you really want to make a pyramid quickly and use large amount of resin, you probably should put it into ice water or something really cold like that, just to keep everything chill on the outside. Also, something to pay attention at, do not move your mold while you are pouring. Just make sure everything is clinged to the sides from the mold holder so that everything really is in place, and then start pouring your resin in, don't move it anymore. Also, don't fill it up until the very end of the mold, because this will give you a hard time removing it in the end. I did this in my last pyramid and it was a struggle getting it out there. I had to freeze it and then I was able to remove it because it shrank a little bit. But don't fill it up until the very end so that you can still grab the silicone mold and pull it out there. As you've already seen now, for the second pyramid I wanted to be a bit savvy on the resin. So if you do not want to use it as a savior for the rest amount of resin that you have there and really want to make some pyramids, you probably want to use as little resin as possible. Because this mold really can keep a lot of resin. And therefore I created this little pyramid shape as well to put it into center to avoid the resin to flow all over the place. So this was just a bit of a safety measure for me to avoid having resin over the entire form. So basically that you need less resin to complete your pyramid. And also I wanted to see and be creative about the things that we can put in there probably. So you can use the resin, you can use pigments, glitters, resin paste, whatever you actually have available to make your layers in there. But then the idea popped into my head, what would actually happen if I used some of the wooden sticks that I use for my beach scenes and all this stuff. So I just put a couple of those wood shards in there as well, poured the resin over to make it stick together, put some stones over it as well, just to see how it looks in the end. I really had no idea, but I was curious to see how it looks in the end. As there was still some room in my mold left, I decided to put some colored sand PVA glue mixture in there, what I usually use for sand borders for my acrylic pours, so I wanted to see how this works out in the end. Little spoiler, it didn't. Don't do it. It takes ages to dry. I had it in there for 3 days, it still was not solid right, so don't even try. I had to remove it in the end, but yeah, it didn't work. For my third pyramid, I wanted to be even more creative. I wanted to follow the steps from the second one, but I wanted to use some clear center this time so that there can light show through in the end. So instead of using cotton paper, which I did for the second one, I decided to use some clear film and made my tiny pyramid out of this. I followed the same process, but this time I made sure that each layer is translucent. So I did use less pigments than in all the other pours that I did before. I only used some glitter sometimes, some alcohol inks, because those normally really are translucent, just to make sure that light can fall through all of these layers. Process-wise, pretty much the same thing. And I really love how this one turned out. Especially in the end sequence scene that I filmed for the end of the video, you can see what I meant. Bottom line, to make this video not too long, I really love this mold. It is so much fun. It saves you a lot of resin that you probably would have wasted if you hadn't had this mold, so I really like using it. I'm not going to make pyramids on purpose, but I'm going to pour all the leftover resin in there that I have available from other projects. And following this way gives you even more little thin layers and make it more interesting to look at in the end. Perhaps, we will see. So this sums up pretty much everything that I did for this project. I hope I could raise some interest in the silicone molds that you have seen in the video. If so, please make sure to have a look at the Let's Resin homepage and put into your basket whatever you think you will need for your projects. I'm pretty sure there is a couple of things that you really want to try as well, because there are a couple of things that I would love to try as well. And if you have any questions about the materials that I've used, about the process whatsoever, just leave me down in the comment section. So thank you for your time, thank you for watching, and other than that, I hope to see you in my next videos. Have a great day, bye bye!